There's a saying that everybody plays their destiny when they're in preschool. Some kids dance, others paint, others boast around, and there's some that are scientists. And today we brought someone that was very different from her parents. Let's see the story of Dr. Karen Corbin. How are you?
I'm well.
I'm fascinated with your story. Let's go back to Puerto Rico in the 70s. We're not going to say when, but you were born in a small island, but you were very curious. Tell us about your childhood.
Yes, so, Puerto Rico is a beautiful island. It's full of beautiful plants and rocks, and I got to explore that beauty. And ever since I was a little girl, I had this dream of wearing a white coat and discovering things. I don't know where that came from. Actually, I think I do. Guess what my favorite TV show was when I was a little girl?
I can't. What?
Wonder Woman.
Oh,
the original with Linda Carter.
Yes.
And Wonder Woman had genius-level intellect, and she sometimes wore a lab coat. So I think that put the seed in my mind. But I didn't know any scientists, so how could this dream come in my head? I think it was from my parents allowing me to be curious and ask questions and explore. And I also had parents who said, you can do anything you want to do if you work hard enough. So all of those pieces came together to let me become something that I had never seen before.
Wow. So let's go back to your parents. There's so many pieces of wisdom sprinkled everywhere in what you just said. Let's start with your parents. So your parents, what was their background? And where did they learn how to encourage you to with this curiosity approach?
So my dad is a computer programmer and my mom is an actress. So I had kind of this technical background from them and a creative background. And I was also a dancer, by the way. We can come back to that. So somehow, even though in my generation, it wasn't customary for women to pursue a career, somehow they knew that I had a dream and they needed to support that dream. So I don't know what taught them to do that. I'm very grateful that they did that for me.
So your elementary education, you were in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
At some point you came to the U.S.
Yes.
But you end up being this famous researcher, interviewed by the Washington Post, working for Advent Health and leading researchers like in so many different ways in your area. How was that journey?
The journey to become a scientist is long, and it takes a courage, and it takes believing in yourself. And so it was really a lot of twists and turns. I always knew I wanted to be a scientist. I didn't know exactly what. And then I fell in love with nutrition and learning about how food is so important for learning, for our health. And I started my career as a dietitian where I helped adults learn how to eat and how to feed their families. And then I realized something really important. Two people can eat the same thing and they don't have the same response to that food. So I realized there was some science we needed to do to understand what makes people different. Why can one person eat one diet and it helps them to be healthy, but that same diet doesn't work for someone else? So that led me to go back to school to get my doctorate degree and to really focus my career on maximizing the healing powers of nutrition, because I feel like good nutrition can do so much for us, starting as kids all the way through adulthood.
Wow. So you have so much to teach parents, right, in terms of allowing your child to pursue their own interest.
Yes.
How was that while you were in this journey?
Well, my parents must have noticed that I had an interest in science, because besides the dolls and all those fun toys, I had a microscope and I had this thing to connect wires and help light bulbs to come on, and I had a toy that turned dull, kind of boring rocks into sparkly, shiny rocks. So I think it's so important for parents to notice those things their kids gravitate towards and give them those experiences. And if your child doesn't quite have that path picked out like I did, which is sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Expose them to different things, because you don't know what's going to light that spark. It can be one moment, one person they meet, one experience that can change their entire trajectory in an amazing way. So get them off their phones, get them out of the house, get them to different things, because you just don't know what might spark that dream for them.
So you believe in passion-based learning?
Oh, absolutely. Do I seem passionate? Because I am. You
You
have
are.
to love what you do.
So, and you believe that passion is rooted in our childhood experiences.
Yes.
And then when you find something that your child likes, it clicks, and all of a sudden they sparked their
Yes.
imagination. But let's say that a parent has no idea about science. How can you guide your child in a journey like this when you have no idea?
That's a really great question. And neither of my parents were in science. We didn't know any scientists. So I think for them, it was just encouraging me to not give up, to send me to good schools that had interesting learning. And I think teachers were a huge part of my journey. So I remember one specifically when I was in elementary school in Puerto Rico that would take me out of my elementary school class to her high school science class and plot me right in the front. And here's little Karencita, just taking it all in. So she knew, so I clearly was giving that message out somehow, that science was something that really lit me up, and they supported and encouraged that. So it's really about support and encouragement, and finding somebody in your community that you can introduce your child to. I've had kids come to visit me. I've had the Girl Scouts come. Somebody brought their 2 daughters, and I showed them around, and they wore little coats. And so 30 minutes of my time with them may or may not impact them, but it could. It could say, look, here's a girl. She was wearing hot pink, and she was kind of like me, and she was doing these things that are really cool. So I think it's just exposing them to people and places.
Well, that answer is the perfect transition to what has become your mission. I love Geeks That Speak. I love the mission of your organization. Can you tell us about it and how you started it?
Yeah, so this is going to shock you. I used to hate speaking in front of people. I would run away from
That shocks me.
any and all opportunities to speak because I had an accent, and kids made fun of me in school. So I decided when I was a little girl that silence was safe, and I was better off just staying quiet and in the background and not giving them an opportunity to make fun of me. And over my career, I realized that science requires communicating what you know. What's the point of discovering something if you don't share it with the world? And now more than ever, it's also important to teach people how to critically think and evaluate information, because this generation now, they have all the information. Some of it's good, some of it's not quite true. So I realized that was super important. And one day I was in the parking lot at my work speaking to my boss. We have hallway and parking lot conversations are where the magic happens. Yeah. And I was explaining something to him, and he goes, "You're the geek that speaks." And I said, "That's it, Geeks That Speak." And so I started that to train other scientists to be engaging and effective communicators, but also to show kids who they can be, because they can't be what they haven't seen.
So your organization focuses a lot on allowing kids to discover the scientists within.
Yes.
And what are some of the activities that you do through your organization?
So I take opportunities as they come. So sometimes groups like the Girl Scouts, and actually they're coming again this fall, they'll come to our institution. They'll meet the women where I work. We have over half of our scientists are women. But that's not true in the country. About 1/3 maybe are women across the board, and Hispanic women are only 16% of the science workforce. Wow. So we have this amazing place full of amazing women, and so they get to meet women that do all different things in science, and we then take them on a tour of our cool facilities where we study human nutrition and metabolism.
That is so amazing. But I now I see the correlation with your childhood, because also you do a lot of things with art, like murals and things like that.
Yes. You know my story about the murals. So I had this vision in my head that I wanted some young girls to come be with me, and they would wear white coats, and we would have this beautiful art, and we would just take some photographs, because those images are so important. And they were young innovators that you and Erica brought, and we had the best time. And I hope those little girls still remember that day, and maybe some of them will be actually wearing a white coat.
Well,
when
I have
they
a
grow
treat
up.
for you. I invited some co-hosts today. And in the next episode, I am going to actually allow them to host the show and ask you questions.
Oh, wonderful.
Are you prepared for that?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready.
So going back to your Geeks That Speak mission. So a successful scientist, researcher that now devotes her life between her passion for research and educating and communicating. So I think one of the biggest challenges for a scientist are the communication skills that you mentioned. So how would you say how important it is for parents to allow children to experience 21st century learning in the early childhood, be exposed to these communication skills and allowing them to stand up in front of a public? What is your position on that?
Oh, that's so important, especially today. You never know when your story can change someone's life. So I think it is so important for kids to learn how to share their message in a way that connects with the people they're speaking with, and how to be themselves and be engaging on the stage. And then especially when they get to be scientists, not just to spit out a bunch of numbers and facts and figures, but to create a story around that, because stories help you make memories, help you kind of put it all together and understand it. So those are some of the things they can start practicing as they're young, and get rid of that fear of communicating, so that when they're grown-ups, they can go into a job interview or onto a stage in front of 1,000 people and share something that's going to make the world a better place.
Wow, that's beautiful. And along this journey, what were some of the challenges that you had to face?
Science is really about failing, right? If you had all the right answers from the beginning, we wouldn't need to do experiments. So there's been challenges in developing the science. There's also been challenges, for example, in people telling me things that maybe weren't so nice. Like one person who told me, "You'll never become a scientist if you keep asking so many questions." And I said, "Excuse me, I thought being a scientist was exactly about asking questions." So I left that situation because it wasn't really supporting me as a true scientist. And then I was speaking at a conference, and I have a little bit of personality. I don't know if you can tell, but I got off the stage and my boss said, "You need to tone down your personality." And I was thinking, Puerto Ricans don't know how to tone down our personality, and I've never let go of my personality, and it has served me well, because why would you want to bore people when you're on the stage? So those kinds of, bumps and bruises and turns, and the fact that a lot of times I was the only woman in a room, and particularly only Latina woman, and learning to say, I belong here.
And how do you prove to others that you belong there?
I think it comes from having confidence in yourself. So I've always known that I bring important skills and qualities to the table. And that really does go back to your childhood, to your parents not differentiating the fact that, well, maybe my brother could have been a scientist, but girls, they don't do that. They never made me feel that there was any reason that I couldn't do that. And that's the message I want to get to kids now, because as much as a positive experience can take your trajectory in a positive way, a negative experience, just one, can shut off a whole pathway for a child. And that's a tragedy. That child could have cured cancer, but somebody just slammed the door in their face. And that's what I want to prevent, that there's never that curious, talented child that wants to do this, that doesn't just because somebody told them they couldn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about what not to do for parents. This show is about bringing very practical strategies to the parents, to today's parents. So what should a parent not say a kid?
If they have an idea of something they want to do, work with them to find a way to foster that. I have a friend at work whose little girl is an expert chess player, and the vacation she wanted to take was to Iceland because she wanted to see a place that had to do with a famous chess player.
Wow.
Most parents would have been like, are you kidding me? But she went to Iceland, and she got to see that special place for her. So I think is being open-minded to their ideas. And Orlando's full of great places. We have the Science Center, we have Gatorland, we have a lot of places where kids can experience nature and science that don't necessarily have to cost a lot of money, but just letting them see it and experience it.
So letting them see them, not always encouraging their passion,
Yes.
their passion. What about if they want to give up?
Encouraging them to keep going or finding out why they want to give up. You know, I was going to be either a scientist or a dancer, right? So those are two very different things. And eventually I gave up on the dancing, right? But that was the right move. I loved the dancing. It was fun, but it wasn't really where I needed to go. So it's okay to give up on certain things if it's because it's not what they're passionate about, what they want to do, not because they're afraid or because they think they can't do it, because they can.
Sometimes kids, and to talk a little more about being afraid. Sometimes kids are afraid of trying new things. Yesterday, I just digitalized one of my children's videos from they were little. And one of the videos, my daughter was saying, I cannot do this. And I saw the youngest version of me saying, yes, you can do that. But if you can, if you can do it, try it. And if you fail, it's okay. Will help you. But what are those things that you can say to your child to promote that courageous spirit?
So I think is exactly what you just said, not being afraid for something to go wrong, especially a child that wants to do science, because sometimes what you think you'll discover, it doesn't turn out to be what you discover. Sometimes it's something even better. So letting them know that if you make a mistake or something doesn't work, solving that problem, critical thinking is such an important skill, because problem solving is really what life is all about, right? Nothing's ever going to be perfect in any situation. So you have to think through and figure out, okay, this didn't work, so what would be another approach? So letting them not be afraid to fail and you can learn, and I know this is what you teach in your curriculum, that those failures and those mistakes really are just learning opportunities and growth opportunities that are so valuable. In fact, I've had a lot of my science for many years that didn't go quite how I had hoped. And as hard as that is, it has allowed me to become that critical thinker and that problem solver. And I'm not afraid of anything. If something doesn't work, I know I'm going to go, okay, what's the next way? And we're going to redesign this and we're going to go a different direction. So I think encouraging that learning from things that
and
maybe scare them. Yes,
and I love that, because I think in the era of internet, ChatGPT, and artificial intelligence, it's very easy to get all the answers, like to questions, without the experience. But the experience is what stays.
Yes, looking for the answers yourself and then looking for multiple sources of those answers, because, you know, artificial intelligence works based on what is fed to it. But it might not have all the sources. It might not have all the information. So it's important to know how to evaluate different information to see, where did it come from? How was it generated? Is it valid? Is this a valid answer? So it's nice to have those tools to sort of maybe point you towards those resources, but without having to think it through yourself, you're missing a key component of the process.
Wow, what an amazing. Well, this is the end of this episode.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much for being part of my journey. I've known you for so many years, and I'm so honored to witness how you've grown in your career and grown in your impact giving back to others. So thank you so much. Please consider this your stage to connect to parents in the different communities that we serve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for everything you do. And if you like this episode, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast. Just tune in to the next episode of Raising Innovators.